The officer's hand pressed hard against the man's chest. "Where do you think you're going, boy?" he sneered, his voice sharp enough to cut the air. The crowd froze. No one moved. The black man stood still, calm, his silence louder than any protest. What no one knew, not even the officer, was that this man held more power than anyone else in that parking lot. The officer's grip tightened, his badge gleaming under the harsh sun. He treated the man before him as if he were less than human, demanding answers with arrogance carved deep into every word. The stranger's hands remained steady at his sides. He did not shout. He did not resist. His silence was his weapon, his stillness his shield. The onlookers shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered, others looked away. No one dared to intervene. The weight of injustice hung heavy, suffocating the air. It was the kind of moment where time slowed, and the line between right and wrong became unbearably clear. The man being stopped was not ordinary. His name was Marcus Reed. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his face carved by years of service. His calm eyes carried stories of deserts, battlefields, and long nights spent comforting families who had lost everything. To strangers, he looked like any other man returning home from work. But behind those quiet eyes was a lifetime of sacrifice. Marcus had served his country in uniform long before wearing a suit and tie. As a soldier, he had carried the weight of fallen brothers and sisters on his shoulders. He had written letters no one ever wants to write, delivered folded flags to grieving families, and stood graveside as rifles fired into the sky. He knew pain, but he also knew dignity. And it was dignity that held his silence now. The officer didn't see that history. All he saw was a target. He pushed harder, demanding identification as though Marcus's humanity needed proof. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder, yet no one spoke in his defense. Silence became complicity, and every second deepened the wound. Marcus finally reached into his pocket with deliberate calm. Not fear, not anger, calm. He handed over a wallet. The officer smirked, already confident in his imagined victory. But as he flipped it open, his face drained of color. Inside was not just an ID. It was a badge. Marcus Reed was the head of internal affairs, the very man who investigated officers like him. The silence of the crowd shifted instantly. What had been fear became awe. What had been complicity became realization. The officer's arrogance faltered, his voice stuttering into fragments. His posture, once towering with false authority, collapsed into trembling shame. Marcus said only one sentence, spoken with the weight of every silent injustice carried on his shoulders. Respect should never depend on the color of a man's skin. The word sliced through the air, undeniable and unforgettable. The officer lowered his gaze. Around them, the crowd grew braver. Some nodded. Others whispered prayers of thanks. The truth had revealed itself without rage, without violence, only through the steady hand of silent dignity. Marcus's silence had not been weakness. It had been strength, an unshakable patience forged in sacrifice. He stood as proof that real power needs no raised voice, no clenched fist. Power lives in truth, and truth requires no permission to shine. Another line left his lips, one that the crowd would repeat long after that day. Honor is measured not by the uniform you wear, but by the respect you give. The officer stepped back, humiliated. He understood now that his authority had limits, while Marcus's integrity knew none. What was once a moment of injustice transformed into a lesson witnessed by all. The crowd no longer looked away. They stood taller, their silence turning into quiet solidarity. Some placed hands over their hearts. Others bowed their heads. A ripple of respect filled the air like a rising tide. Marcus turned and walked away, not triumphant, not boastful, only steady, dignified, and unbroken. His silence had spoken louder than any voice ever could. And in that silence, a message lived on: dignity cannot be taken, only surrendered. Marcus Reed had surrendered nothing. Every day, unseen battles play out in silence. Some are met with cruelty, others with courage. Marcus's story reminds us that respect is not a privilege to be granted, it is a right every human deserves. Wherever you are watching from, take a moment to share your thoughts below. What does silent strength mean to you? If this story moved you, subscribe for more stories that honor dignity, sacrifice, and the heroes who remind us that real power is never loud, it is steady, patient, and just.